Some punches thrown as fists fly at Jets camp today as they have a joint practice with the Carolina Panthers. Not a great day for the offense, but Garrett Wilson just keeps doing his thing. And CJ Mosley speaks on the Haason Reddick situation. I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio, JetNation Live. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. Thanks for checking in with us. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Dylan Terraman will not be here. This is sort of an impromptu thing. For a couple, I'm gonna try to do more of these. Now that the season's here, we're gonna try to talk more football and do more than just the Wednesday, Thursday night, whatever it may be. But today, and this really surprises me. I haven't seen a ton of it, but I've seen like two or three. I've seen Jets fans. I've seen Panthers account, site, whatever. Tweeting out like, "Oh yeah, it's fight time. Yeah, this is awesome. Let's fight at camp." Like, what? I get it if you're 15. Like when I was a teenager, I probably thought that was awesome too. I get there's a time and a place. You want your guys to stand up for themselves, and maybe they get into it a little, and you kind of. But I can never see rooting for it. Like understanding it, like, okay, well, that guy just took a shot at our guy, and you got to defend your teammates. So I get that. But it's weird. It's weird to be like, yes, our guys are fighting with another team. And then some dude breaks his hand and you're like, oh my God, that guy's so dumb because he was doing the thing you were cheering him on to do. Fighting at camp is not, it's one of those things. I get that it happens. It's football, but it's never good. I don't even say never because again, if you're a team trying to, establish yourselves as being a team that's not going to get pushed around. So this is what I mean. I understand why it happens. I get as a football fan why it happens. But I don't get the cheering for it and wanting it. Especially if you're not even like, it's one thing if you're there watching and you see something happen, you go, oh, that guy's got to retaliate. But it's a weird thing. Don't cheer for your team to fight. Now look, couple division rivals fight. Have at it. Fight all day. Bills, Dolphins want to have a joint practice and fight each other. Go ahead. I have no problem with that. But anyway, Michael Clemens apparently was involved at some point. I saw a tweet saying Chuba Hubbard had a run. Clemens held him up too long to where Hubbard didn't like it, felt like it was a little much. So he shoved Clemens. Clemens throws a punch at him. Hubbard throws a punch back, and then the teams just collide, come together, and it's a bit of a mosh pit for a few minutes. And listen, Michael Clemens is a guy that doesn't take stuff off of anybody. Now, look, I wasn't there, so I don't know if what he did was excessive. But DJ Reed got into it. Apparently, someone scored a touchdown on Reed on a play that Reed was flagged or would have been flagged. And then when the receiver, I think then he said Mathis, I believe, caught the touchdown, he flipped the ball to Reed, who's on the ground. Now, listen, it's the guy showing you up, but it's football. Like, you can't get into a fight with someone because he flipped the ball at you. Like, stop him, right? Like they say, like, you don't want the other team to celebrate? Stop him. And again, especially it's preseason. Like, you're trying to get ready for the year. The last thing you need, especially like a player as important as DJ Reed, can't go out there getting yourself hurt. You got to stay healthy. On offense, the Jets today, apparently there were some struggles. Aaron Rodgers threw a couple of picks, one of which went off the hands of Allen Lazard, so no huge surprise there. And it's been up and down camp for Lazard. I don't want to pile on. We did our 53-man roster projection last night. He's going to make the roster, if for no other reason the cap hit. Like, you're not going to take on a cap hit to release him. But he can be a productive guy in this offense with this quarterback. But, it's just when a guy has a year like he did last year, anytime you see he drops a pass, you're just going to roll your eyes and be like, oh, great. But Lazard had a drop that was picked off. Rodgers then later had an interception that was apparently clean. He just didn't see the defender. So not a great day for him. Offensive line reportedly got pushed around a little bit. Tyron Smith was active. I believe Connor Hughes said that they were rotating guys out. Smith was rotating out, but for the most part, the starting offensive line was in place. Later in the practice, they started pulling guys and letting some backups get reps. So it wasn't the whole practice, but at least during the early portion, 11-on-11 red zone type stuff, it sounds as if the line was intact with the exception of Smith, who was getting some run. Fashanu, we didn't talk about this last night. Olu Fashanu's been getting some reps on the right side the last couple practices. Now, the Jets did say weeks ago he would get reps on the right. They wanted to wait for him to master the left. Now, I doubt he has mastered it at this point. That may have just been, not the most accurate. They probably just wanted to get to the point where they were comfortable with him at left tackle, which clearly they are now because he's been playing on the right side, and the reports have said he's looked good there. So having him be able to have some versatility is nice. I think Carter Warren will be the swing guy, and I think Olu will be the primary left tackle, backup at left tackle. But who knows? Look, if he takes the right tackle quickly enough, maybe he's the backup at both spots. Maybe he's the swing. But either way, we'll see what happens with Fashanu. But again, O-line struggled a little bit today. Aaron Rodgers threw a couple of picks. However, some big time throws to Garrett Wilson. Now, listen, what's happening right now with with Garrett Wilson, kind of the way I'm viewing this, is exactly what happened last year. I went into last year, you get Rodgers, and you're like, well, Garrett Wilson's going to put up 1,200 yards. And then you're hearing his name constantly. Garrett Wilson. Maybe he's going to be a 1,300-yard guy. Garrett Wilson. Every day practice. Garrett Wilson. And I think by the end of last preseason, I was like, Garrett Wilson might have 1,500 yards this year. And that's kind of right back where I am. Every practice, it doesn't matter if the offense is sputtering, if the offense is thriving, Garrett Wilson always gets his catches. It doesn't matter if it's against his teammates. It doesn't matter if it's joint practice. I don't think there's been a day yet where we don't hear about Garrett Wilson hauling in a deep ball. Usually, not always, but usually for a touchdown. I think Aaron Rodgers I think Garrett Wilson is going to see 1 million targets this year. And I think 1,500 yards is not out of the question. Only way it doesn't happen is if they just spread the ball around so much, which I think should be ideal with the number of targets you have. But I think they're building this connection now and Rodgers has said in the past, that Garrett reminds him of Devontae. Dylan can't join the show right now, but he did say he'd chime in on here. Said no game reps for Olu right tackle yet, only practice. Yeah, and that's the way it should be. Step one was get him comfortable on the left side before he works at the right side. They've done that. And absolutely, hold off and don't plug him in at right tackle in any games yet. Let him have a few weeks. I mean, you still have a few weeks till your first real game. But let him play on the right side, sparingly between now and the start of the season. And then you have a guy who maybe can play both spots if you need him to. So that'd be great. Robert Salah trolling Connor Hughes a little bit today. And listen, I am in lockstep with Connor Hughes on this. I am so tired of iron sharpens iron. We've been hearing it. It's every time, every player, everything. Everyone sharpens everyone. Iron sharpens iron constantly. But yeah, I guess since Connor has said a couple of times recently on Twitter that he's tired of hearing iron sharpens iron, Robert Salah stared Connor Hughes dead in the eye today, talking about, I think, the D-line, and talked about how iron sharpens iron. And then he, big robust laugh from Salah. And I said this to Dylan Terman a minute ago offline, just chatting on, Messenger. Robert Salah has driven me nuts as a fan with some of the stuff he's done as a coach. But he's a likable guy. Obviously I want him to succeed because he's the Jets head coach, obviously. But just as a human being, he is a likable person. I like Robert Salah, the person. Robert Salah, the football coach, is driven me nuts a little bit. The main thing being that not getting on guys enough when they make mistakes, too many free passes for stuff like that. And we'll see if that changes. I don't know. Winning fixes everything, as they say. I'm not someone who's out on. I mean, the Beningo thing. That was what I was glad to see the other day. For those of you who may have missed it, Salah did an interview with the folks at WFAN, Boomer, and whoever his sidekick is now. And the sidekick guy said, last year, Robert, I know Joe Beningo well. Gio, is it Boomer? I think it's Boomer and Gio. I don't live in New York anymore. I don't live in America anymore, so I don't listen to these things. I catch clips. But he basically said, Robert last year, he said, I know Joe Beningo. I wouldn't tell that guy anything. You got him coming on the radio on the air saying, oh, let me tell you what Rob Salah really thinks of this quarterback. And it's like, yeah. And they had a laugh about it, but that was really a dumb move by Salah. But again, likable guy, had a good laugh with the media today. Obviously hope he gets things turned around. Speaking of things that we would like to see turned around, the Haason Reddick situation. And I got some time to kill here today before work, so I've been on Twitter going back and forth with some people. Respectful conversations. Dylan and I talked about Reddick last night and the fact that he's still not in camp. You're over 20 days now. The fines, they've got to be over $1 million by now. I feel like a week ago we were in the high 8, low 900,000s. The fines have to be over $1 million now with 50 a day, plus game checks. So with these fines being mandatory, and Reddick refusing to come into camp, therefore the Jets not willing to give him a deal, and this if this is building animosity, they're professionals. If he comes in, he's going to come in, he's going to play. The Jets are going to play him, and that'll be that. But the Jets might be looking at this now like, you know what? Maybe we don't give him a deal in season. Maybe we let the fines accumulate. He'll come in when he comes in, and then we let him walk and get a comp pick, potentially, depending on what they do in free agency. But I don't think the Reddick situation is this. Someone said to me earlier, I believe on the forums at JetNation, this is a distraction for the team, and it may have been Twitter. I forget one of them. And I just don't think it is. I think because fans and media talk about it so much that some people assume players are talking about it all day. Where's Haason? Where's Haason? Is Haason here yet? They're not doing that. And they're not angry about it because, as we've said before, and many people have said it in the past, players want players to get paid. Because when everyone's getting paid more, the next guy, everyone who plays that position, you don't think Jermaine Johnson will be thrilled if he has a monster year and Reddick got paid? Like, great, I'm up next. Let's go. So players understand why guys do this. They would all do it, or almost all. You might get the odd guy who doesn't. But the overwhelming majority of players will hold out if they feel they have to, if they feel that's their last option to get a pay raise. Let's see, Wild Wave, how we doing? Listen, it's camp. You're going to have days, not every day is going to go the way you want it to. Some days, and I forget this too, sometimes I have to remind myself that there are days you're working on things. There might be something that you feel like, oh, you know what, let's try this look, or let's ask this guy to do this thing that we've not asked him to do before and see how well he performs. So this is a time for experimenting and messing around a little bit and trying new things. So I don't worry. I mean, listen, if you have a couple of guys consistently getting beat for like stacking practices where you just, this guy got beat for 3 sacks today and 2 yesterday, and so-and-so got, threw 5 interceptions yesterday and 3 more today. It's like, all right, that's a little much. But like hiccups and they had a bad day, doesn't bother me, doesn't concern me. I will say, though, I mean, if there is any concern about this D-line, having said just yesterday how stacked it is, there are questions. Look, I'm optimistic about Javon Kinlaw because he played okay late in the year last year. Statistically, probably his most productive 5 or 6 games in terms of pressures and sacks as a pro. And then he comes out and says he's put on 20, 30 pounds of muscle. I'm like, okay, so that's that. There's reason for optimism. We've talked about Leonard Taylor. Like, it looks really good as a UDFA. Not perfect. You go back and watch that Washington game. There were a few plays where they had combo blocks and took Taylor right out of the play. Ran right up the middle. So, yeah, I do have some concerns just overall in this team's ability to stop the run, especially to stop the run up the middle. But at the same time, if all goes to plan, you're hoping that you're going to have some big enough leads late in games that teams, even if you're having a hard time with the run, teams aren't going to be running a whole lot because they're trying to play catch up. Again, that's perfect world. That may not happen that way. And that's, listen, this is just, I've been a fan of this team for 38 years. There's always going to be that part of me, as optimistic as I am about this team and as good as I feel and as much talent as they have. I think you could argue this is the most talented Jets team ever. I said the other day that, in my 38 years, this is probably the most talented roster. But at any time, can anyone tell me the last time the Jets had a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback? And look, he may take a step backwards, but if he does, I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think we're going to see that much of a drop off from Aaron Rodgers. A guy who's viewed by many as a top 3 running back, a receiver we just talked about who might get you 1,500 yards. There are questions about the left tackle. I mean, and listen, it's not like Garrett Wilson's a rookie and I'm suggesting this. This is a guy who has put up 1,000 yards with trash trash quarterback play. So there's every reason to believe that with Aaron Rodgers, minimum 1,300 yards, but 15 wouldn't surprise me. So you've got that at one of your receiver spots. You've got Conklin, another guy who was very productive considering trash quarterback play. Tyron Smith, injury concerns, obviously, but if healthy, big if, I get it, not living in a fantasy world here. Tyron Smith, easily a top 3 tackle in the NFL. Morgan Moses, a little bit long in the tooth, yes, but last year, probably a top 8 guy. Maybe say he's top 10 this year. You got an all-rookie team guy at center in his second year. You have a 2-time all-pro in just 2 seasons at one corner spot. You've got another, maybe arguably top 5, number 2 corner in the league in DJ Reed. I mean, when was the last time the Jets had something like this? And I'm not saying that to be I'm genuinely asking, can someone tell me the last time the Jets had a roster that was this stacked? Multiple time all-pro at corner, multiple all-pro left tackle, multiple time, again, first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. Brees, as we said, in the backfield is going to be amazing. We don't know. Look, Braylon Allen, rookie, hasn't proven anything. I believe, I've said this before, when I saw him as a freshman at Wisconsin, I was like, this dude is a monster. And then he was a monster throughout his college career. No reason to believe he won't be as a pro. Like, there is so much talent in place. Like I said, and yeah, John says, tough not to get too high in this year's team after a great preseason game with Washington. And even before that, John, I say this all the time. Sometimes people get hostile. Oh, they haven't played yet. It's on paper. It's on paper. Right. But before the game start, that's all we've got is paper to look at and read. And when you read the names, it's a very impressive list of names. And so I say again, in terms of what guys, along with the talent that clearly jumps out when you watch them on screen, combined with what they've actually done on the football field, the vet guys, tell me a time when the Jets had more talent than this. And I get that's not saying a whole lot, right? Because the Jets haven't had many talented teams. Or at least not that you would sort of stack as one of the best in franchise history. I remember as a kid, those teams had a lot of talent. When I first started watching the Jets, when I was just learning what football was, I didn't really know what I was watching, but I knew I was cheering for them because my family was cheering for them. And you kind of got an understanding that Kenny O'Brien had a cannon, but he couldn't get out of couldn't avoid a pass rush. You had Wesley Walker and Al Toon. Everybody loved those guys. And Klecko and Gaston, like those teams were loaded. Yeah. Were they this loaded? Kenny O'Brien certainly isn't an Aaron Rodgers class at quarterback. Freeman McNeil, really good player. I think Brees will exceed, again, it's like you got to say all the time, health. Of course, everything is down to health. If guys stay healthy. Brees Hall stays on the field from a talent standpoint. What you saw from him in college, what you saw from him pre-draft, what you've seen of him in the NFL, I don't think the Jets have ever had a more talented back. When you combine size, speed, and not just long speed, but that explosiveness, shot out of a cannon, his ability to change direction, I would say he's the most talented guy I've seen as a Jet. Garrett Wilson might be too, or if he's not, he'll get there. So that this is my point. That with all the talent this team has, even as long as I've been a fan, there will always be that part of me that's like, just waiting for you the other shoe to drop. What's going to happen? How is this not going to work out? Because you have a hard time believing it will, or at least I do. But people who are getting upset at, or people who do get upset if you say this might not work out this year, look, to each his own. But I've got that thing in me, and I said it last year. I didn't say it live because I'll say it here, because I've discussed it before. I talked to someone a couple days before the season started last year and said, what if they find a way to not let this work out? And it was like, don't put that out there. And I know that's how we respond to stuff like that. But if we're saying we know that doesn't really affect anything, like things you say to your friends about the Jets don't have any impact in real life. But I get you don't want to hear it. I don't like thinking it. But as a fan, it crosses my mind. So I understand anything can go wrong. But the level of talent on this team is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Haason Reddick is one of those phenomenal talents. He's just not on the roster right now. Or sorry, he's not on the active roster at the moment. CJ Mosley talked about it. And as I said, people have talked about how the fact that people have talked about how it's a distraction. It's not. Mosley said today. And Mosley said, no disrespect, but the guy's not here right now. So we're doing our thing. The guys who are here are getting ready. And if and when he shows up, he'll have a lot of work to do to get ready in a hurry. So people who imply that this team is losing sleep, that like they're distracted, not the case. Again, these are pros. It might be a little bit different. I'm not even saying it will. It might be a little different if it were a quarterback or a guy who was a part of this team where it felt weird that he's not there. Haason Reddick's never had a single practice with these guys. Some of them might not be able to pick him out of a lineup. So it's not like, oh man, it's not the same with Haason not here. You know, if Haason was here, we know he would have done this and that would have worked. Or if Haason was here, we'd be able to run this and it would work better. There is none of that because he's not had a single practice. Nobody in that locker room has a level of loyalty to him that they might have to a guy who they've been through it with. And even in those cases, I think teams are fine. You know, there might be a little bit of talk. Can't wait for so-and-so to get back. Feels weird that so-and-so is not here. But not to the point that it's derailing anything or breaking anyone's concentration or preventing them from being able to prepare. So people saying that this, you know, and I've seen some of that this is a distraction. Joe Douglas created this distraction, and now, you know, now they've got to clean up this mess. There's nothing to clean up. And that's pretty much where I am right now. Even if I wanted to say, you know, the Jets should have done a better job, or they shouldn't have traded for Reddick, whatever it may be, my focus is on the fact that this team is, as I just discussed, this team is so talented, I couldn't imagine thinking to myself, what can I complain about? Like, what's going on with this team right now that can upset me? Yeah, I know. I'm going to talk about Haason Reddick and say that it's a circus and the GM, oh, look, he did it again. And if you missed it last night, I made a point last night with Dylan Terriman in talking about the Haason Reddick situation. And the Haason Reddick situation right now is obviously not a good one. But the people complaining about Haason Reddick now, I guarantee you, if the Jets had not traded for him and we found out during the year that the Jets had an opportunity to get him, but Joe Douglas didn't do it because he only had 1 year left on his deal. But Reddick and his people told the Jets, hey, if you come get me, I'll come in and play. And we'll get a deal done later. But I'm going to show up and I'm going to play even though I only have 1 year left on my deal. And Joe Douglas allowed that to stop him. And he said, you know what? I'm not pulling the trigger on this trade because this guy only has 1 year left on his deal. If that story had been leaked, Jets fans would be killing Joe Douglas for that. Oh my God, I can't believe another gutless GM who didn't pull the trigger on a deal. Because that's what we always hear about Jets GMs, right? Oh, we always do the due diligence, but we never pull the trigger. So Joe Douglas here takes a gamble, pulls the trigger, believes the guy will come in because it makes no sense for him not to, and he doesn't. I could get mad. I could be mad at Joe Douglas. But you know why I'm not mad at Joe Douglas? Because they have Jermaine Johnson, and I believe in Will McDonald, and they have Quinnen Williams, and they have Sauce Gardner, and they have DJ Reed, and they have Michael Carter, and they have CJ Mosley, and they have Quincy Williams. That's why I'm not mad. Like, I literally still just today on the old forums at JetNation, people still bringing up Zach Wilson. Like, that matters. Like, do you think Ravens fans, because you look at the way things went for the Ravens with Ozzie Newsome, his first 3, 4, 5 years, not very good. Losing record, no playoffs. You think Ravens fans sit around when the Ravens were finally good and like complain like, oh, remember that time Ozzie drafted that guy that didn't work out? No. And I'm hoping I mean, I hoped last year when you got Rodgers that would be it, right? You get Aaron, you at least make a deep playoff push, maybe a Super Bowl, maybe. Obviously, you wouldn't have with all the O-line injuries. But you want the team to obviously take the next step and get to the point where you're talking about winning games. But some people they want to talk about Zach Wilson, and they want to talk about Haason Reddick, and they want to talk about, the fact that Will McDonald didn't do much last year. Like that, we've talked about this. McDonald was likely drafted to be a guy, situational pass rusher for a team that was expecting to have a lot of leads, and they didn't. So there were no situations for him to come in and play. Even though when he did get some run late in the season, he showed some improvement. I don't know if this may be real. Elon says Matt Milano torn bicep out for the season or most of the season. That'd be rough. Bang. Have to wholly disagree here. Will McDonald means nothing. He's just a name and a disappointment draft pick. He gets stonewalled on the right. Complete. Bang. This could not be more false. Will McDonald, despite, yes, he had a low number of snaps last year, but he had one of the best win rates in the NFL. One of the best 1-to-1 win rates in the NFL. He had a monster spin move the other day. If you go back and look at the joint practice with Washington, he was dominating. He had the spin move and the again, wasn't a sack, but I mean, listen, if you're getting to the quarterback in like 1.3 seconds and the ball comes out, I don't care that you're not getting to the quarterback in 0.3 seconds. That's not going to happen. You get there in a second and a half, under 2 seconds, I'm good with that. McDonald did that. McDonald did it again today. I saw again at the joint practice with the Panthers, I saw a tweet that Will McDonald had a would-be sack. Will McDonald is going to be absolutely fine. And saying he doesn't win and that he gets stonewalled on the regular is completely false. As I said, bang, one of the best win rates in the NFL last year. Did he dominate the actual game? Again, he got to the quarterback in about 0.9 seconds on one play, and the ball came out. That happens sometimes. That's not getting stonewalled. That's just the quarterback getting the ball out in a hurry. And this is a guy who's still learning. So I have no concern. Again, is he going to hold up against the run for a full season? Probably not. But as a situational pass rusher, he'll absolutely be a factor. Wild Wave says he's starting to realize the Jets fans are ungrateful. In fairness, well, he's not expected to start right now. Bang, he's number 2 on the depth chart behind Clemens. But I would say go back and watch him last year, like against the Giants. He had some really good reps against the run where I thought he was playing better. Well, not I thought. He was definitely playing the run better than I expected. But I just don't know if he has the frame to hold up against it for a full season or if he'll get worn down. So there are some concerns for his all-around game. But I have no doubt if you use Will McDonald as a situational pass rusher, he can be an 8+ sack guy with as quick as he is. But yeah, listen, it's a weird thing to me. You would think the Jets, for a team that's been as bad as they have been for as long as they have, it's almost like fans are like, I get the frustration. Obviously, we're all frustrated. But to look at this roster and how deep it is and still looking for things to complain about. And some people, it's their natural disposition. Like some people, we probably all have relatives. I know I do. Or did. Who just like their mission in life is like seek angst, look for things that make me upset. And if I can't find something that makes me upset, I'll decide something new makes me upset. Because I can't just look at something and go, oh, this might work out okay. So we don't know how the season's going to play out, obviously. Crazy things happen. Getting players, getting talent doesn't always matter. We've seen teams do it before. So I'm not sitting here putting the Jets in the Super Bowl. I'm just saying I think you're crazy if you don't think they have enough talent to get to the Super Bowl. They absolutely do. That also does not mean they are perfect because no team is. We've seen teams win the Super Bowl. We've seen teams ranked in the, bottom 5, 10 in the league in defense go to the Super Bowl. I don't have the numbers in front of me because I wasn't expecting to talk about it, but I believe if you look back at the Pats and Eagles, the year Nick Foles beat the Pats, I think they were both like bottom 8 in the NFL in pass defense. And it sure showed up in that game. They combined for about 1,000,000 yards. But again, so this isn't me saying the Jets are perfect. This is just me saying the Jets have an incredible amount of talent. So much so that I couldn't imagine choosing at this point in time to find something to complain about. And especially with Reddick, who still has yet to miss a game. But I get it. We're frustrated people. This team's bad more often than they're good. A lot of moves haven't worked out, but a lot of them have. There's a lot. It's funny. You get fans who complain that there's no talent. Oh, this team sucks. Joe Douglas sucks. Da, da, da. And then 5 minutes later, like, how are we supposed to re-sign this guy when we have all these other superstars who are coming up for big money? Like, well, which one is it? How do you got all these superstars coming up for big money if the GM sucks? Oh, we got to pay Michael Carter, too. He's going to make a lot of money. Yeah, because he's good. And then you got Sauce and the money Aaron makes. Yeah, because you traded for Aaron because you got a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like, that's what happens. You get good players, you got to pay them. But on the one hand, it's the GM sucks, and the other hand is how the hell is the GM going to re-sign all these good players he got? So which one is it? Did he get good players or not? I think he did. Robert Salah, the very likable Robert Salah. We'll see how he does, how this all plays out. Saturday night, Jets, Panthers. I will actually wrap up a post game on that. Dylan may be able to join me. And then I believe I will be joining Scott Mason on Play Like a Jet right after I'm done with my show, and we'll wrap it up on there. Have a good one, Jets fans.